how do you find that out? Well, I'm going to show you real quick and easy. I've put this in some videos before, and I hope this comes up in on the camera, but if you are buying 10 karat gold, you divide 10 by 24, and you come up with 0.416. That is 10 karat gold. If you do the same thing with 14 karat, you're going to come up with 0.583. If you do it with 18 karat, you're going to come up with 0.750. Those are your decimal equivalents for gold contents. These are easy to reference online if you don't want to do the math. Math is really easy to do, so if you ever forget, that's how you do it. It's a piece of cake. Carat in gold is a measure of fineness. It has 24 parts. 18 karat is the fineness here, divided by 24, 0.750, piece of cake. So, we have our spot at 90%, and then we would just put in our multiplier. Let's say we're going to go with 10 karat gold. We'll do 0.416. Now, a lot of times on jewelry, 10 karat, you'll see it marked 0.417. Can't answer why that is, but it's wrong. Do the math, you'll see it is. The only thing I can figure out is that maybe we're rounding up. Maybe it's 0.4166, and so they're rounding it up. But if I remember right, when you do the math, it comes up 0.4162. So that doesn't really jive. I think it's more like, well, I don't know what it is. It's silly. But a lot of times on 14 karat, you see it marked 0.585, and it's not 0.585, it's 0.583, and so I don't know why that is, but just do the math and you'll get the real decimal equivalents for gold. And anyhow, you multiply your answer to your first problem by the purity of the gold, and you will get the price for 1 ounce of whatever this is you're buying, whether it be silver or gold, in that purity for 1 ounce. So your answer here is going to be 90% of spot for the purity at 1 ounce, because you're starting with 1 ounce of spot as your multiplier. You're starting out with 1 ounce, and so you're ending there with 1 ounce. Now, you're wanting to break it down into grams. So you take this final calculation here and you divide by 31.1, the number of grams in an ounce. Heaven forbid you would be weighing anything in penny weights. If you were, then you would use 20 divided by 20. I really only deal in grams, and I suggest you do this. But there you get that does it. You know, you divide by 31.1, and you get the price per gram. It works on all carats of gold. It works on platinum. It works on palladium. It works on silver. There's a lot of different ways you can probably get to the same answer. For me, this is the simplest, and it's the one I use, and you just memorize it. And I would suggest, especially when you're starting out in this, is to check your figures 2 or 3 times, because you can take quite a beating by assuming that your figures are correct, and you can get confused and do something wrong. If you're buying 10 and 14 and times 0.90. For me, most people pay 65%, so they would be, you know, your Joe Pawn on the corner. He would take his spot times 0.65, and then he would use his purity number, multiply it by that to get the ounce value that he wants to pay, and then divide it by the number of grams or the number of whatever the weight unit is you're using to get your gram price or your penny weight price or whatever. Let's see what the rest of your question is. It says in one of the books it talked a lot, I added the a lot, but in one of the books it talked about undercarrying because refineries never get 100% of the gold. I don't really understand what that's saying there. A lot of times people think that the refinery is ripping them off when in fact they're honest and straight shooters. I maybe have fallen into this trap years and years back, and that is that when you're dealing with a refinery, you don't have any answers. You know, your scrap's all melted down into a glob, and they're saying that there's a $5,000 discrepancy, and you're out and you're lost in space, and you think this guy's a crook. However, there may be some huge mistake in there that you've made, or there may be a handful of mistakes that one of your friends have made, etc. And you're never going to know what that mistake was, so you're always going to have that, you know, eating at the back of your mind that, you know, this guy's a crook or whatever. And that's why sellers like to use me. Perhaps they've had some question in their mind before, and they think Joe Smelter just ripped them off, which may or may not be the case. But they don't want to have that hanging in the balance again and just be at risk like that, and I can definitely relate. But if you send something to me, and let's say you send in 100 grams 14 karat, and I find a bunch of bad stuff in there, because I'm going to go through it just like you did when you bought it, and I'm going to send that stuff back to you. Even if you don't want it back, I'm going to send it back to you, because I don't want there to be any question, you know, that I'm getting one over on you. And so you're going to get that back, and you're going to know exactly what the discrepancy was, and that helps you to learn no matter who you are. I could learn that way, anybody could. The other way, you just have to have a really personal, long-term relationship with your refineries and people inside there to give you peace of mind. To